What if I told you that no one has the power to disturb your peace unless you hand it to them? Think about that. Every time someone's words got under your skin, every time you let someone ruin your day, you were giving them access to something sacred, your mind, your mood, your energy. But what if you didn't have to anymore? What if you could walk through life calm, centered, and untouchable, no matter what anyone else says or does? You weren't born to be a sponge for other people's emotions. You weren't made to be a punching bag for their anger, their fears, their projections. But somewhere along the way you started believing that you were supposed to react, that if someone insulted you, you had to fight back. If someone ignored you, you had to chase them. If someone doubted you, you had to prove yourself. That's the trap. Believing that peace is something other people give you when they treat you right. But peace doesn't work like that. Peace is not a gift, it's a decision. A decision you make the moment you stop letting other people write your emotional script. Most people are just reacting. They're angry because they're hurt. They're controlling because they're scared. They lash out because it makes them feel less powerless. And when you absorb all that, when you take it personally, you become their puppet. But when you see through it, when you recognize that their chaos is not yours, you take your power back. You stop dancing to the tune of their dysfunction, and you start living by your own rhythm. Being untouchable doesn't mean you don't feel. It doesn't mean you shut down or become numb. It means you've trained yourself to choose your response. It means you've created a space between what happens and how you let it affect you. That space, that's where your power lives. It's where you decide to stay calm instead of explode. It's where you choose silence instead of over-explaining. It's where you stay grounded even as the world tries to shake you. And here's the reward. Once you learn how to master that space, life changes. The opinions of others stop defining you. Their approval stops controlling you. Their negativity stops entering your inner world. You become anchored, focused, free. You move through chaos with grace. You speak less but mean more. You act with purpose, not panic. And people notice. They feel your presence. They respect your silence. They stop testing your limits because they realize you have them. Firm ones. So stay with me. This is only the beginning. If you've ever felt tired of being emotionally hijacked, if you're done letting others dictate how you feel, if you're ready to reclaim your peace and protect your energy, then this is your moment. Because from here on out, you're going to learn how to be untouchable. And once you understand how much power has been inside you all along, you'll never see yourself the same way again. You've been taught your whole life to react, to answer every insult, to defend every opinion, to fix every misunderstanding. And because of that, you've given away pieces of yourself. One argument, one explanation, one emotional outburst at a time. But here's the truth. The more you react, the more control you surrender. The more you chase validation, the more you forget your own worth. The world pulls at you constantly, but the untouchable mind doesn't get dragged. It doesn't flinch every time someone disapproves. It doesn't crumble when things get tough. It stands tall, anchored because it's built on something deeper than noise, clarity. Clarity is a weapon most people never develop. They walk through life confused about who they are, what they stand for, and what they will or will not tolerate. And because of that, they become easy to manipulate. But once you know who you are, once you stop needing everyone to agree with you, you free yourself from the exhausting game of reaction. You stop looking for signs that you're enough. You stop trying to be palatable, perfect, or pleasing. You begin to operate from a place of truth, and that's where strength begins. When you claim emotional sovereignty, something incredible happens. You begin to move through the world with grace. Your mood is no longer at the mercy of traffic, rude people, or unexpected criticism. You stop reacting to petty energy because you know it's not your job to carry what's not yours. You stop engaging with those who don't deserve your time. You stop wasting your breath trying to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, you stand in quiet power. That kind of silence isn't weakness, it's mastery. The strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It's the one who doesn't flinch, the one who pauses when others panic, the one who stays steady while everyone else scrambles for approval. And that can be you, not someday, not when life is easier, but now. Because becoming untouchable isn't about changing the world, it's about changing your stance, your posture, your inner dialogue. It's about realizing you have nothing to prove, no one to chase, nothing to beg for. You already are what you need to be. You just have to stop giving people the keys to a kingdom they don't belong in. Decide right now that your peace is not negotiable, that your focus is not available to distractions, that your power is not up for grabs. The moment you do, you'll feel a shift. A clarity will rise inside you. And suddenly, you won't need to win every argument, fix every relationship, or explain your every move. You'll start choosing what deserves your energy and letting go of everything that doesn't. This is how Untouchable begins, not with rage, not with force, but with quiet, unshakable conviction. And once you taste that kind of inner stillness, you'll never go back. There is a moment when you realize that being calm is not weakness, it's power that doesn't need to scream. When you stop rushing to defend yourself, when you stop chasing closure from people who never gave you clarity in the first place, you rise. You rise above the noise, the drama, the chaos, and you start to see clearly. The loudest people in the room are often the most fragile. The ones who throw shade are usually standing in their own darkness. And once you understand that, you stop taking it personally. You stop letting their pain become your burden. You stop carrying what isn't yours to hold. This is where your power multiplies, when you learn how to pause. That space between stimulus and response, that breath you take before reacting, is where your strength sharpens. Because anyone can react, anyone can lash out, but the ones who hold real power are the ones who choose. They choose where their energy goes. They choose what they absorb and what they release. And that choice, it rewires everything. You stop giving others access to your emotions. You stop being a mirror for their dysfunction. Instead, you become the standard. You become the boundary. You become the stillness in a world that never stops spinning. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't flinch. Not because they don't care, but because they've done the inner work. They've sat with their insecurities. They've faced the parts of themselves they used to hide. And in doing so, they no longer need the outside world to validate their existence. That's what makes them untouchable. Not arrogance, not detachment, but self-ownership. You don't need to be hard to be strong. You don't need to be cold to be powerful. What you need is alignment, where your mind, your words, and your actions flow from a place of purpose, not pressure. When you stop trying to control how others see you, you take back your energy, and with that energy you build, you grow, you focus on becoming, because chasing approval is a distraction. Trying to be liked by everyone waters down your soul, and every time you bite your tongue to keep someone else comfortable, you shrink, but not anymore. You're not here to be palatable, you're here to be powerful. You're not here to fit into broken systems or unspoken rules. You're here to rise above them with grace and certainty. Choose now to protect your peace like it's oxygen, because it is. In a world addicted to chaos, your calm is rebellion. Your silence is power, your focus is rare, and the moment you choose that path, people will notice. They'll test you. They'll try to pull you back into the noise. But hold your line. Stay rooted. You are not who you used to be. You are becoming untouchable. Not because you don't care, but because you care so deeply about what really matters. That's the difference. That's the edge. That's your new identity. The moment you decide to stop proving yourself is the moment you start living with real power. Not the kind of power that comes from control or dominance, but the quiet, unshakable kind that radiates from self-respect. That's the level where people can no longer manipulate you with guilt, shame, or silence. That's the level where you no longer lose sleep over opinions that don't build you. Because once you respect your own time, your own standards, your own peace, you stop begging anyone else to. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You start owning it. People will always test your boundaries. They'll push to see if you'll bend, if you'll fold, if you'll give them more access than they've earned. That's not because you're weak, it's because you're strong. And strength intimidates. When you carry yourself with dignity, it makes others uncomfortable, especially those who live in fear and feed off control. But your job is not to shrink to make others feel better. Your job is not to become small to be accepted. Your job is to rise, consistently, deliberately, without explanation. The untouchable version of you doesn't argue to be understood. You don't chase closure, because closure is something you give yourself. You don't enter every conflict with the need to win. You choose silence not because you're defeated, but because your peace is too expensive to trade for drama. You stop giving your energy to people who've shown you they don't value it. That isn't cruelty, that's clarity. That's evolution. That's choosing to protect the very thing most people neglect, your inner world. You become immune to petty attacks when you recognize that nothing anyone says can define you unless you believe it. Words only cut when they land on a wound. And your responsibility is to heal, not to harden. Because healing makes you powerful. Healing makes you grounded. Healing gives you the ability to see things as they are, not through the lens of your pain. That's why emotional discipline is everything. It's not about suppressing what you feel. It's about directing it with purpose. It's about not letting temporary emotions lead to permanent damage. The more you honor yourself, the less you tolerate disrespect, not out of anger, but out of alignment. You don't argue with chaos, you rise above it. You don't beg for understanding, you walk with clarity. And that clarity becomes a shield. People start noticing your energy is different. You don't flinch. You don't chase. You don't respond to bait. And it drives them crazy. Not because you're being cold, but because they can't touch what's already been claimed by peace. Hold that space. Protect that calm. You are not who you were before. You're not reactive. You're not desperate. You're not seeking validation from broken mirrors. You've built something stronger, an identity rooted in truth. And once you've built that, you'll never allow anyone to tear it down again. That's what it means to be untouchable. And that's exactly who you're becoming. When you finally stop asking for permission to be powerful, the world responds differently. You stop waiting for someone to tell you you're good enough. You stop hoping for support from people who were never built to understand your path. You realize that strength is not something you find in others. It's something you awaken within yourself. And that awakening changes everything. Your tone shifts. Your presence expands. Your priorities sharpen. Because you're no longer driven by fear, but by conviction. And conviction doesn't ask for applause. It just moves forward, calm, steady, and unstoppable. The untouchable mindset isn't loud. It doesn't parade itself. It simply exists, fully aligned, fully centered. You don't chase respect, you embody it. You don't demand loyalty, you inspire it. And if it's not returned, you don't cling, you release. Because your value no longer depends on being chosen. It depends on being true to yourself. That's the kind of power that silences chaos without saying a word. That's the kind of presence that can't be provoked, can't be manipulated, and can't be broken. Because it doesn't need the world's validation to feel whole. You no longer react to the shallow opinions of those who don't know your soul. You no longer explain yourself to minds too small to hold your truth. You've learned that peace isn't passive. It's protection. It's a decision. A line you draw that says not everything gets access to me, because you finally understand the cost of letting everything in. You've seen how much energy is wasted trying to fix what was never yours to carry. You've felt the weight of conversations that drained you, arguments that left you empty, situations that distracted you from your purpose. And now, you refuse to go back. That's not coldness, it's evolution. You're no longer afraid to walk alone because you're finally walking in alignment. You trust your steps even when no one claps. You trust your silence even when the noise gets loud. And you trust your worth even when others try to make you forget it. That trust is your shield, that trust is your power. Because no one can shake a person who knows exactly who they are. No one can bother a soul that refuses to hand over its peace. You've become selective, not because you think you're better, but because you've learned what drains you, what grows you, and what deserves your attention. This is what rising looks like. It's not a scream. It's not a show. It's not a fight to be seen. It's a quiet, relentless commitment to your own wholeness. It's choosing not to respond when it's not worth your breath. It's knowing when to walk away without explanation. It's carrying peace like armor and purpose like a compass. You're no longer playing the game. You've stepped off the field. And from this vantage point, untouchable is not a feeling. It's a way of being. One that you now choose without hesitation. You stop trying to be understood the moment you understand yourself. When your identity is no longer tied to how others see you, their approval becomes irrelevant. That's where your freedom begins. The kind of freedom that cannot be touched by insults, ignored by silence, or broken by betrayal. You become centered. Not because life got easier, but because you stopped depending on it to give you peace. You created your own. You stopped outsourcing your confidence and started building it from within, brick by brick, decision by decision. People sense when you've shifted. They feel it when you no longer flinch at rejection, when their silence no longer unsettles you, when you don't rush to fix what they broke. That calm presence is powerful. It speaks louder than defense, louder than reaction, louder than words. You've learned that the ones who try to provoke you are starving for control, and you no longer feed them. You no longer give them a version of you that fights for validation, because you've already chosen who you are. You've made peace with your past, your pain, your process, and that decision made you untouchable. You don't rise by winning arguments. You rise by walking away from things that diminish your peace. You don't gain strength by dominating others. You gain it by mastering your own mind. The inner war is always the real one. And now that you've learned to win that battle, the world outside loses its grip on you. The noise fades. The drama feels small. You look around at what used to steal your focus and now it feels weightless. Because you've elevated your awareness. You've shifted into presence. You no longer react to every trigger. You respond with intention. Your boundaries are no longer about others. They're about self-respect. They are not walls, they are gates. And not everyone gets a key. You've stopped offering access just because someone asks for it. You've stopped justifying your standards to those who don't live by any, because you now understand that protecting your peace is not selfish, it's sacred. And once you start treating it that way, everything changes. Your circle shrinks, your clarity grows, and your path becomes quieter but far more powerful. You've stepped into a different rhythm now, one where your emotions don't control your behavior, where your past doesn't dictate your future, where your energy is protected like your most valuable currency, because it is. You've stopped explaining your worth. You live it. You embody it. And people either rise to meet you or fall away. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. You don't shrink to make others comfortable. You don't dim your light to keep the peace. You let it shine, even if it exposes what others refuse to face. Because being untouchable isn't about being hard. It's about being healed. It's not about building walls. It's about building strength. And now that you've done that, nothing and no one can pull you back to who you used to be. There comes a moment when your silence speaks louder than your defense ever could. Not because you're holding back, but because you've risen above. You've come to understand that not every battle deserves your presence. Not every insult requires your attention. You don't lose power when you ignore negativity. You gain it. The real victory isn't in winning arguments. It's in mastering your reactions. It's in walking through chaos with unshaken composure. That's when you become a force, calm, clear, and completely untouchable. You stop participating in cycles that drain you. You no longer chase closure from people who live in confusion. You realize that peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from trusting that you no longer need them. That kind of confidence doesn't come overnight. It comes from choosing strength in silence. It comes from releasing the need to prove yourself. And it comes from knowing that the version of you who once begged for understanding no longer exists. You've outgrown her. You've evolved. You've awakened to something deeper, something immovable. There's power in restraint, power in not explaining, not reacting, not lowering your standards to match someone's chaos. You now realize that your energy is sacred. Your space is sacred. And not everyone has the capacity to meet you where you've grown. You're no longer available for emotional tug-of-wars. You're no longer influenced by the opinions of people who haven't done the work you've done. Your focus is clear now. Your path is solid. You've detached from needing anything outside of yourself to feel grounded. That is the foundation of real power. You protect your peace like it's your oxygen, because it is. You choose clarity over chaos, boundaries over guilt, solitude over noise, not because you're bitter, but because you're healed. Healed enough to know what you deserve. Healed enough to walk away. Healed enough to stop arguing for your value. And that healing became your turning point. It didn't make you invincible. It made you aware. And awareness is everything. It's what separates reaction from intention, chaos from composure, weakness from strength. Now when pressure rises, you don't collapse. You center yourself. When people test your limits, you don't lash out. You hold your ground. You've developed the ability to pause before responding. To breathe instead of break, to listen, not to react, but to understand. That kind of control doesn't come from pretending, it comes from practice, from doing the inner work, from facing your own shadows until they no longer own you. That's what makes you untouchable, not because you've built walls, but because you've built wisdom. This is the version of you that doesn't entertain distractions, that doesn't seek revenge, that doesn't confuse noise with significance. This is the version that doesn't need to be liked to feel secure. You've stepped into your power quietly, fully, without apology, and that power can't be faked, it can't be shaken, it can't be stolen. Because it lives inside you now, and no one can touch it without your permission. Strength is not about how loud you are. It's how calm you remain when everything around you is trying to shake you. It's not in the words you throw at others, but in the peace you choose for yourself. When you finally stop measuring your worth by how much you endure, and start measuring it by how quickly you walk away from what insults your soul, you become a different person. You stop living in defense mode. You stop explaining your decisions to people who were never meant to understand your path. You stop wasting your breath trying to convince anyone of your truth, because you realize it doesn't need to be believed to be valid. The more you evolve, the less noise you make. The more powerful you become, the more you value quiet. Not because you're hiding, but because you've learned that true power never begs to be seen. It simply is. And when you carry yourself with that kind of certainty, others feel it, even if they don't understand it. Your energy speaks before you do. Your presence shifts the space, not because you're trying to dominate it, but because you're no longer seeking to fit in. You've built something inside yourself that can't be touched, something rooted in peace, strengthened by discipline and fueled by purpose. You've learned the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is emotional, impulsive, loud. Responding is grounded, intentional, clear. And the moment you mastered that difference was the moment you gained control, not over others, but over yourself. That's the power that makes you untouchable. Not arrogance, not dominance, but presence, self-ownership. The quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly who they are, what they stand for, and what they will no longer tolerate. You stop letting people's projections define you. You stop carrying blame that was never yours. You stop internalizing opinions that come from unhealed places. You recognize that how others treat you says more about them than it ever did about you. And in that recognition, you reclaim your identity. You no longer live to be understood. You live to be aligned. And alignment doesn't require permission. It only requires truth. And when you live in your truth, you become immune to manipulation. You see through it. You rise above it. You protect your peace not with force but with clarity. There's no need to prove your strength to anyone. Strength proves itself in how little you need from people who once held power over you. It's in the peace you feel after letting go of what you once thought you couldn't live without. It's in the freedom that comes from releasing resentment and choosing growth. That's where real power lives, not in control but in letting go. Not in resistance but in redirection. Not in being feared but in being free. And once you know that feeling, you will never give anyone the power to disturb it again. The moment you stop absorbing the chaos around you, you begin to recognize how much power you've always had. Chaos thrives on attention. It grows when you feed it with reaction. But when you become still, when you choose calm over combat, you instantly shift the dynamic. You become the one in control. You realize that not everything deserves a response. Not every invitation to conflict deserves your presence. And not every opinion thrown at you is worth consideration. The greatest strength is knowing when to walk away, not out of weakness, but because your energy is too valuable to be wasted on proving anything. People will try to provoke you. They'll test your peace just to see if they can break it. But when you've trained yourself to stay grounded, their efforts fall flat. They expect noise. They expect defensiveness. When they get silence, when they see you unshaken, it disarms them. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who doesn't need to react. You become a mirror, reflecting back their own frustration while standing tall in your clarity. And that's when it hits them. You've outgrown the game. You've leveled up. You've stopped playing by rules that were never designed for your growth. It's not about being cold. It's not about shutting people out. It's about protecting your focus, your peace, your mission. Because when your life has direction, distractions become obvious. You stop entertaining drama disguised as connection. You stop giving pieces of yourself to people who only show up when they need something. You stop saying yes when your soul is screaming no. And in that refusal, you reclaim your time, your identity, your value. You stop living on other people's timelines. You move with intention. You create with purpose. You speak with weight. It takes courage to be that kind of person, to stop blending in, to stop shrinking to fit expectations, to no longer explain your silence to those who never understood your noise. But that courage becomes your compass. It shows you where you've been giving too much and expecting too little. It helps you recognize that peace is not something the world gives you. It's something you build, protect, and choose every single day. And you choose it by walking away from anything that makes you doubt your worth, your power, or your future. There's freedom in knowing you don't owe your energy to everyone. There's strength in realizing that you are not responsible for how others receive your truth. Your job is not to be understood. Your job is to be clear, to be aligned, to be honest with yourself first. And when that honesty becomes your standard, you attract different energy, real energy, respectful energy. You stop chasing approval because you've already approved of yourself. And when that happens, you don't just become untouchable, you become unstoppable, calm, focused, unshakable. Not because the world changed, but because you did. When you start making the choice to protect your peace, the world around you starts to shift. You stop giving away your power to the opinions of others. You stop seeking validation from those who will never understand the journey you're on. Instead, you learn the value of standing firm in your own belief in yourself. It's not about being perfect or even about being liked. It's about knowing that your worth doesn't come from external sources, but from within. When you understand this, the noise fades into the background. The doubt, the criticism, the distractions, they no longer have the same weight. You learn to let them pass by, unnoticed, uninvited. The shift happens within you first. It begins the moment you decide that you will no longer compromise who you are to fit the mold that others want to place you in. The more you step into your own power, the clearer your path becomes. You begin to recognize that the real power lies in the moments of silence. When you choose not to react, not to explain, not to defend, the world will test your resolve. It will throw challenges, obstacles, and negativity your way, but the more you stand unshaken, the more invincible you become. You realize that their efforts to disturb your peace are just reflections of their own internal battles, not yours to fight. It's in those moments when you feel the pressure to respond, to prove your point, that your true strength is revealed. The more you resist the urge to react, the stronger you grow. You start to embrace the truth that you are not responsible for how others behave. You are only responsible for how you respond. And the more you choose calm, the more control you have. And as you gain this control, you begin to see just how much power you actually have over your life. Every decision you make, every boundary you set, becomes an affirmation of your worth, an act of self-respect. This is what it means to be untouchable. Not because you are invulnerable, but because you have built an unshakable foundation within yourself. Your energy becomes your shield, and that energy doesn't allow negativity to penetrate it. You are no longer at the mercy of other people's actions, thoughts, or judgments. You become clear on your purpose, your direction, and the things that matter most to you. You no longer have time for anything that doesn't align with your values, your goals, and your growth. The more you invest in yourself, the less you are willing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. And that's when you start to notice a shift in your surroundings. The people who once triggered you, the situations that once drained you, begin to fall away. The noise becomes quieter, and in that silence your true power shines. The most powerful thing you can do is reclaim your energy. Protect it fiercely. Stop letting others define your worth. Stop letting the chaos of the world dictate your inner peace. You are the one who decides how you show up, how you react, and how you move forward. And when you make the choice to protect your peace, to build your strength from within, you become untouchable. Not because you're immune to hardship or challenges, but because you've learned to rise above them. You've learned that your peace is yours to defend, and you are stronger than anything that tries to disrupt it. You've already begun to realize something powerful. Your peace, your happiness, your sense of self-worth. All of it begins with you. It doesn't come from the approval of others or the circumstances around you. It's something that is built from within, a strength that can't be shaken by the chaos of the world. And when you grasp that, you start to feel a shift. You begin to experience the power that comes from knowing you are in control of how you respond to everything. You're no longer a prisoner to the reactions of others. Instead, you stand firm in your own energy, unbothered, unstoppable. The more you honor yourself and your inner peace, the more you begin to see that everything around you changes. The relationships, the situations, even the way people speak to you, these things shift as you elevate your own standards. You stop tolerating disrespect, toxicity, or anything that doesn't align with your values. The world in turn begins to respond to the energy you project. People notice your confidence, your boundaries, and they begin to respect you for them. But more than that, they begin to understand that your peace isn't negotiable. And here's the truth. When you stop letting others disturb your peace, you stop wasting energy on things that don't matter. No more exhausting yourself trying to meet someone else's expectations. No more bending over backwards for people who don't value your time, your energy, or your presence. You become selective about what you allow into your life. You understand that not every battle is yours to fight, and not every opinion deserves your attention. You become clear on what is worth your energy and what isn't. And this clarity brings you an incredible sense of power. The more you claim your space, the more you realize that your worth is not something to be proven to anyone else. You don't need to convince anyone of your value. Your actions speak for themselves. Your peace speaks for itself. Your strength speaks for itself. And as you hold your ground, the world starts to fall into place. The toxic people, the negative environments, the distractions, slowly they begin to fade out of your life, leaving you with only what matters most, your peace, your purpose, and your power. You begin to see that when you stop reacting, you actually gain control. When you stop giving away your energy to people or situations that drain you, you preserve your vitality. When you stop letting others define who you are, you become the author of your own story. Every decision you make becomes an act of self-respect, an affirmation of your own worth. You realize that true strength isn't about being untouchable in the sense that nothing ever affects you. It's about being so solid in your sense of self that no external force can make you waver. Your peace, your strength, your confidence, they are unshakable because they come from within. And in that realization, you step into your full power. You stop asking for permission to take up space. You stop apologizing for being yourself. And in that process, you become unstoppable. No matter what life throws your way, you will remain grounded, centered, and ready for anything. Because once you've built that inner strength, nothing and no one can ever make you feel small again. You've already realized that your strength isn't defined by external forces, but by the clarity and conviction that comes from within. And when you stop relying on others for validation, something incredible happens. You become unshakable. No longer do you bend to the whims of the world. Instead, you stand firm in your beliefs, in your worth, in your own path. You become your own source of strength. Every challenge, every obstacle, no longer holds power over you because you know that nothing can touch your core unless you allow it. The moment you stop letting others dictate how you feel or how you respond, you reclaim your energy. That energy that was once spent on worrying about other people's opinions, their judgments, their expectations, is now yours to command. You become the architect of your own emotional world. You no longer give anyone the power to disrupt your peace because you've created a solid foundation within yourself. Your inner strength becomes your shield, and your clarity becomes the lens through which you view everything. When you stop allowing the world to dictate your emotional state, you start to create boundaries that honor your well-being. You learn that it's okay to say no, to walk away, to protect your peace at all costs. No longer will you tolerate toxic situations or people who drain your energy. You become more selective about where you invest your time and your emotional bandwidth. You realize that your peace is priceless, and it's not something you're willing to compromise on. And as you make these choices, you begin to see a profound shift in your life. People start to treat you differently because your energy has changed. You no longer settle for anything less than what you deserve, and others feel that. They begin to understand that your presence is not something to be taken for granted. Your boundaries are not negotiable, and your peace is not up for debate. It's a powerful feeling when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself or justify your decisions to others. You stand firm in your worth, knowing that you don't need anyone else's approval to be whole. The key is knowing that your inner strength doesn't come from external validation. It comes from the deep conviction that you are enough, that you don't have to prove anything to anyone, that your value is inherent, not contingent on the approval of others. When you truly believe this, you stop reacting to the noise. The criticism, the judgment, the negativity, none of it touches you. You are untouchable because you no longer give others the power to define you. Your peace and strength are yours to protect, yours to nurture, and yours to amplify. And as you walk through life with this unshakable confidence, you realize that nothing can make you feel small again. You've become untouchable. Not because you are immune to life's challenges, but because you've found an inner peace that nothing can disturb. Your emotional state is no longer determined by what happens outside of you, but by what happens inside of you. You've taken back control, and with that control comes an undeniable sense of freedom. Nothing can touch you unless you let it. And once you claim that power, nothing will ever be the same again. When you stand in your power, you will attract only what matches your energy. The truth is, when you start to recognize your worth, the world starts to recognize it too. People will begin to see you differently, not because you've changed, but because you've finally seen yourself clearly. You no longer settle for less, and others will sense that. The energy you exude will either inspire or repel, but it will never leave you unnoticed. Your self-assurance becomes magnetic, and suddenly, the things that once seemed out of reach are now gravitating toward you. The life you desire is not some distant dream. It is becoming your reality as you rise to meet it with the belief that you deserve it. And while the world begins to take notice, the most significant transformation will occur within you. You will stop doubting your decisions, your path, and your ability to handle whatever comes your way. The fear that once held you back will slowly fade as you begin to understand that you are more than capable of facing any challenge. You have weathered storms before, and each time you emerge stronger. The setbacks that once felt like failures are now stepping stones. You've built resilience, and now you stand unshaken, no matter what the world throws at you. Your power lies not in avoiding challenges, but in how you rise to meet them. There is no obstacle that can block your way because you have developed the mindset that nothing is permanent unless you allow it to be. You realize that you have a choice in every situation. You have a choice in how you respond, a choice in what you give your energy to, a choice in who you allow to influence your life. You are not a victim of circumstances, you are the creator of your own experience. This realization will set you free. It will liberate you from the fear of judgment, from the need for approval, and from the toxic belief that you have to prove your worth to anyone. Your worth is inherent. It's not tied to what you do or what you achieve, it's tied to who you are. Once you internalize this truth, you will no longer live for others. You will live for yourself. You will no longer make decisions based on what you think others expect of you. Instead, you will make choices based on your inner compass, guided by your intuition and aligned with your highest self. This shift will allow you to build a life that feels authentic and fulfilling. No longer will you seek validation from outside sources because you know that everything you need to feel complete is already within you. You have everything you need to live the life you've always wanted, and it starts with claiming your worth. It starts with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing, without a shadow of a doubt, that you are enough. When you own this truth, you begin to walk through life with a sense of purpose and direction that is impossible to ignore. And in that powerful energy, you will find the life, the love, and the success that you deserve. The moment you step into your power, the world can no longer control you. No longer will you be swayed by others' opinions or dictated by outside forces. You realize that your life is yours to design. Every thought, every action, and every decision you make is a reflection of who you choose to be. The key to this freedom lies in your ability to trust yourself, to trust your instincts, to trust your vision, and to trust your ability to create the life you desire. This unwavering trust in yourself will be the foundation of your success. It will be the anchor when everything around you feels uncertain. The more you believe in yourself, the more you begin to see how everything aligns with your purpose. As you trust yourself, you unlock an inner strength that was always there, waiting for you to tap into it. This strength is not a forceful, aggressive power. It's a quiet, steadfast confidence that moves mountains without the need for force. It's the kind of power that is rooted in peace, in knowing that you have the ability to create, to shape, and to transform. It's a power that comes from the knowing that you are in control of your destiny, that no matter what obstacles arise, you are capable of overcoming them. This realization shifts your perspective from a place of fear to one of opportunity. You begin to see challenges as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Every setback becomes an opportunity to grow, to refine your skills, and to strengthen your resolve. You no longer fear failure because you understand that failure is just another word for growth. It is the process that leads you to greatness. The moment you take ownership of your life, you begin to realize the incredible potential you have inside of you. You stop playing small, you stop settling for less than you deserve, and you stop allowing fear to control your decisions. You become fearless, not because you lack fear, but because you know how to act in spite of it. You've learned that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the ability to move forward even when the fear is present. When you make that shift, you realize how much power you hold. You have the power to choose your responses, to dictate your actions, and to create your reality. No longer will you allow yourself to be a victim of circumstances. You understand that life is a reflection of the choices you make, and every decision you make has the potential to move you closer to the life you've always dreamed of. You stop waiting for permission to succeed. You stop hoping for the stars to align. You take the reins of your life and you move with purpose. With each step you take, you grow stronger. With each action, you build momentum. And with every choice you make in alignment with your highest self, you move one step closer to the life that is waiting for you. When you take ownership of your power, you stop looking outside of yourself for validation. You no longer need approval from anyone else. You stand tall, unwavering, and confident, knowing that your worth is unshakable. Your power is yours to command, and with it, you are unstoppable. When you begin to take control of your life, the shifts you experience are profound. The world around you may stay the same, but you will never see it through the same eyes again. Your mindset will no longer be bound by limitations. You'll stop seeing the obstacles in front of you as insurmountable. Instead, you'll start to see them as temporary challenges that exist to make you stronger. Every difficulty will become a lesson, and every failure will teach you something you need to know to move closer to your success. The more you embrace your power, the more you realize that there is nothing you cannot achieve. You begin to see the endless possibilities that exist for you, and you understand that the only limits are the ones you place on yourself. Fear no longer holds the same grip on you. It still exists, but it becomes nothing more than an impulse, a fleeting emotion that you acknowledge and move past. Courage doesn't come from the absence of fear. It comes from your ability to face it, to look it in the eye, and to choose to act anyway. You will no longer wait for the perfect moment or the perfect conditions. You will create your own moments. You will carve your own path. And you will do it with an unshakable belief that you are meant for something great. As you claim your power, you realize that the energy you put into the world is reflected back to you. What you believe about yourself is what you'll see in the world around you. If you believe you are worthy of greatness, greatness will find its way to you. If you believe that you are capable of achieving the impossible, you will find doors opening when you least expect it. The universe has a way of aligning itself with your mindset. When you show up with confidence, when you act from a place of inner strength, the world will respond in kind. It's not about waiting for the world to give you permission or validation. It's about stepping into your own power, fully and unapologetically. The only person you need approval from is yourself. When you trust yourself, you begin to take the necessary actions without hesitation. You no longer question your worth or your abilities. You move with a sense of purpose, a sense of urgency, because you know that time is precious. Every moment spent doubting yourself is a moment wasted. Every moment spent holding back is a moment you'll never get back. And when you realize that, you take action. You step forward with everything you have, ready to give the world the best version of yourself. The time for hesitation is over. The time for second-guessing is done. The time to rise has come. The moment you decide to take ownership of your life is the moment everything changes. You will begin to see yourself as unstoppable. You will begin to see your life as a canvas, ready for you to paint your masterpiece. You will no longer wait for opportunities to find you. You will create them. And as you do, you will inspire others to rise along with you, to claim their own power, and to change their lives forever. When you begin to take full ownership of your life, the world shifts around you. Your focus sharpens, your vision clears, and your resolve strengthens. The distractions that once seemed overwhelming fade into the background. You start to understand that every moment you waste is a moment you will never get back, and that urgency fuels your every action. It no longer matters what's happened in the past or how many times you've fallen. The only thing that matters is the person you are becoming in this moment. That version of you, the one that refuses to be held back by fear, doubt, or the opinions of others, is the version that will rise. It's that version of you that will look back and be proud of what you've accomplished. There's a power that lies in taking responsibility for your own success, in realizing that the future you desire doesn't come to you by chance. It comes through intention, action, and belief. The path won't always be clear, but it's in the moments of uncertainty that your true strength emerges. You are not meant to be stagnant, to live in a place of comfort or complacency. You are here to grow, to evolve, and to break through every barrier that dares to stand in your way. The resistance you face is not an enemy. It is the very force that will forge you into the person you need to become to achieve everything you've ever wanted. There will be moments when the road gets tough, when the weight of the journey feels unbearable. It's in those moments that you must dig deeper, trust more fully, and continue moving forward even when every part of you wants to quit. The ones who succeed are not those who never feel fear or exhaustion. They are the ones who keep going in spite of it. You have an incredible well of strength within you, and it's waiting for you to tap into it. Every challenge, every setback, every moment of self-doubt is an opportunity to prove to yourself just how resilient you truly are. Success is not about perfection, it's about persistence. It's about showing up every day, giving everything you have, and trusting the process. Every action, no matter how small, compounds over time. You may not see immediate results, but the seeds you plant today will blossom into the life you've always dreamed of. Stay consistent, stay disciplined, and most importantly, stay committed to the vision of the person you are becoming. Every time you push through the resistance, you are laying the foundation for something extraordinary. The world is full of people waiting for the perfect conditions to act, but those conditions never come. The perfect moment is the one you create, the one you build through sheer will and unwavering determination. You have the power to shape your own destiny, to take the reins of your life and direct it exactly where you want to go. The only thing that can stop you is your own reluctance to move forward. You've already come so far. Keep going. Every step you take is a step closer to everything you've ever wanted. And nothing can take that away from you. The future is yours to create, and it starts with the decisions you make today.